For all you big buck hunters, if you're looking for an ideal base camp for hunting the big woods in the Adirondacks and Tug Hill, you've got to call our friends at Christmas & Associates. For over 35 years, they've been providing land and camps to sportsmen. 5 to 50 acres, rivers, streams, and ponds in some of the best locations. Affordable prices and in-house financing with low monthly payments. They can even build their Adirondack-style cabins on property you already own. For more information, call Christmas & Associates at 1-800-229-7843 or go to landandcamps.com or visit them on Facebook at Christmas & Associates. Take care. Welcome to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast, a Big Woods Bucks production. In this podcast, the Big Woods Bucks crew from New York sits down and discusses all things hunting and even a little fishing within the blue line. 6 million acres of old-growth forest and few roads make the Adirondacks one of the most challenging places to hunt in the country. From Iroquois and Algonquin deer drives to the early days of Adirondack guiding, the team discusses the history, legends, and lore of these ancient mountains. Along the way, the team interviews top Adirondack hunters, from well-known legends to little-known local legends, homing in on what it takes to be successful in these unforgiving woods. All right, welcome back to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast, all you legends. We appreciate you tuning in. This is your host, Brian Connor, Big Woods Bucks CEO and video guy. We're recording another episode here on this beautiful September day. The leaves are changing up in that mountain there. The stream, the Sacandaga River's gently flowing by. It's just as poetic and beautiful a day as you can get. I got some of my friends here.
Bob Dunbar.
And Mark Sharon.
All right. And we got a guest today who I'm really happy to have on. His name is Christian Bills. Welcome to the podcast, Christian.
Thank you. It's a pleasure to be here.
So Christian is a local Southern Adirondacker, born and raised.
Born and raised,
in the Adirondacks.
Yep. Northville's where I was born and raised at, so
excellent.
Close to the southern here.
Excellent. And I don't care how humble he is. He's a super buck slayer, and we're going to get into that because the racks tell the story. But I'm sure there's more stories we can get into, so it's going to be a good conversation. As an initial matter, can you flip around and show that shirt? I haven't even seen this shirt yet. So hopefully the viewers can see that. Yeah, there you go. Hopefully they can see that. But that's our new Adirondack shirt, and it's just beautiful. And we got Mike Del Rizzo, who's an artist out of Ontario. He's a wildlife artist. We got him to design that for us, and he just did such a stellar job. So if you're looking for those Adirondack shirts, we have those in stock, right, Bob?
We do. With the first run of them we had, I think we sold them out in 4 days.
Yeah, so don't sleep on them because we do them in small batches, which is just the way we do our merch. And don't sleep on getting an Adirondack shirt. So I'm going to also give you the swag. Like I said, we just had Roy Hart on. We did the entire podcast. He went home, and then the swag that I had for him just sat here. So yeah. I got to just get it out of the way early. I got a mug for you, Big Woods mug.
Nice, very nice.
And I got the Track 'em shirt. Don't just stand there, track 'em.
Nice.
You can get that on the bigwoodsbucks.com as well. So that's your swag.
Sweet.
And as our appreciation for you coming on.
Well, thank you.
So, all right, let's get right into it. You're a Southern Adirondack hunter. As we've talked about, the Adirondacks can vary pretty wildly in terms of the landscape and the forest composition. It's pretty unique here. So you grew up hunting, I take it?
Yeah, so I come from a family that grew up in the Southern Adirondacks. We're actually in Edinburgh, which is just before Northville.
I was going to ask you, you got to keep it closer than you think.
Okay.
Yeah.
Same zip code. So we're out of Edinburgh, but my grandfather and great-grandfather owned 3,000 acres there at one point.
Wow.
And they owned a logging company. And when it came to deer season, come November time, it shut down. It was everybody filled their tag before they went back to work.
Yeah.
And it usually didn't take them long. They were pretty good woodsmen. My great-grandfather especially was big on like the still hunt, and he would put my grandfather and my great uncle out, and they would just go do big long loops and come back to them, spend all day doing it. And they killed a lot of bucks that way, a lot of nice bucks, and they were kind of always known for the meat pole in the front of the house. Everybody would drive by, and once the Bills boys had the meat pole filled, they went back to work and started cutting wood again. So it's definitely in the bloodline, and I really enjoy it. And You can't beat having the Southern Adirondacks are beautiful and a great spot to do it for sure.
They really are. Stay away though and go to the Central Adirondacks where they hunt.
High peaks.
High peaks.
Yeah, go to the high peaks.
Yeah.
So you came from a long hunting tradition.
Yeah.
And they would do pushes then.
Yes. Yep. They did a lot of pushes, and they would do a lot of still hunting too. But they always were still hunting with, and we still do it to this day. It's still hunt with intention. You're intending to push a deer to a spot, but you're still hunting towards it, and hopefully it works out. And it did a lot of times. But they just knew the woods really well, and I find that a lot with like loggers is you know the terrain, you know how deer move through the woods, you watch them run through the woods, and you spend a lot of time there, and you just naturally pick up on it.
Well, that's the big woods farmer.
Yeah.
So the
absolutely.
southern tier, is farming, and if you know a farmer, he's so well acquainted. I grew up on a farm, so you're so well acquainted with that land, it becomes a part of you, and it's second nature. Like the bucks will be here. Me and Bob grew up that way,
Oh, yeah.
And the loggers are really the farmers of that.
There's a bee circling around.
Feed them some
I
CO2,
would
Brian.
just swat him
They
away.
love it.
He's
I
not
give the
getting.
impression of a pussy or anything, but I don't want to get stung either.
It's the drink.
It's
Is it though? It's on me.
Yeah, no,
No,
he's
he's
that a-
he'll leave you
smelling
alone.
he's smelling your breath. We'll cut all this out.
I think we're gonna leave it in. It's dangerous out here, folks.
Brian likes the bees.
I'm gonna stand up and walk away. You had a great point you were making. I'm gonna stand up and walk away and lead him away.
He is honed in.
Yeah, he's like,
He was.
Brian.
Now you know what it feels like to be the Adirondack buck.
So anyway, the farmers, the logger is the farmer of the big woods.
Right.
That's my point. And,
Farmers of the forest.
yeah, and they have a real understanding of that land, because they make their living off of it.
Right.
And when you make your living off of nature, you're attached, man. It's funny because Austin worked for Asplin, and so he's always looking at the weather app, and that's how logging is, farming is. You're always thinking, am I getting enough rain? You know what I mean?
Right.
So you're constantly thinking about nature. Where other people from city or suburban environments, they're not thinking about any of that.
Right.
They're thinking about the office and the project. So that's really interesting. I wanted to ask, so they do these drives, but did they just still hunt? And did they do any tracking? Was that a thing?
Their tracking, I think, would mostly consist of if they bumped something while they were either going into to hunt a certain area and thought it would be a buck, then they would follow it. I don't know. I never really heard many stories of like specifically getting on a track and tracking it till they had killed it. But I do know that they would get on a track and follow it all day, and they always were famous for saying, almost always by the end of the day, that deer would cross its track again, back almost to the spot where you had bumped it.
Yeah.
It was always a big circle. So a lot of times they bumped one, you left a watcher there, and somebody went after the deer and followed it all day. And a lot of times they would go a ways and then drop another watcher, and because there was 3 of them that hunted together mostly, and it would almost always end up back to where they had started from. And whether they killed my great-grandfather was always a follower. He was a very athletic build, could move through the woods well, and he would almost always be the one to follow it. And a lot of times he would follow it, I guess, on the track and kill it tracking. But I don't know if they ever went looking for a track to do the tracking.
Right.
Yeah,
the tracking thing.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. So the land that you hunt, obviously not going to give away an area, but smaller mountains. And do you hunt a lot of swamps? Because you live in an area that's very swampy.
Right.
Right?
Yep.
So do you find that the bucks are in those swamps, or do you find that the high ground is where you see them more?
So I've always been the type, I always look to the top of the mountain. Like, I always want to be high on the mountain. It's just who I am. It's how I love to climb, love to get up high and then work my way down. I find I have more success lower. As crazy as it sounds, a lot of times you get to the top of the hill, and whether you bump them off before you can get to them, because usually if they have the high ground, they got you. They can see it, especially in the Adirondacks. We have a lot of open hardwood ridges where they can get bedded up on top of a hill, and they see you, and they got you long before you ever get to them. And especially on dry ground or no snow, where you can't pick them out easy, moving up through the open timber or whatever. I mean, they've got you dead to rights a lot of times. I have killed them on the top of ridges, and I've killed them in the swamps. The last couple years, though, I've noticed we've been very dry up here. Not much rain. And even normally we always say, like, you know, you're going to get the fall rain, and we just aren't getting the fall rain. It's dry right into deer season. We're not getting that heavy rain. And I think it's pushed the deer lower a lot. And we've started hunting a little bit lower towards like major contributaries like this where you know they have water.
I agree.
And there's been a lot of deer down low. And a lot of the crop has been rotting off on the trees or dropping early for the tree to try and save itself.
Yep.
So you're not getting a good mass crop like you normally do. But yeah, we can basically kill them anywhere. It just is whether we can find them and, you know, catch up to them and have the stars align, because it seems like that's what it takes a lot of times to get an Adirondack buck.
Yeah, for sure.
for sure.
For sure.
I've heard that a lot, and I've observed it a lot. The fact that it's just there haven't been. I got the wrong impression. I started hunting in 2018, and it was like a crazy beach night year, and 2019 was too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So I was telling somebody the story recently, but like I got the totally wrong impression about like how to hunt deer, because it was just sign everywhere. Subsequent years were really learning experiences in terms of like having to cover ground to find deer. So I've observed the same thing when there are those mass crops, because sometimes even there will be a hill where it's good. Is that where you're headed? I mean, are you going after the food?
Yeah, so a lot of times we try to target areas where we know if it's an oak year, you know, we're going to have acorns on. We try to target a hill that's got, we know basically the area we hunt specifically. We know every oak tree, and I mean we've stomped the ground a lot, and we'll kind of find those pockets, and the bucks might not always be right in there all the time, but you have does there. So, and we hunt around the peak route a lot, so you know that those bucks will be short behind them and be into that area shortly, and or if they're not there already. But we do find like your bigger bucks, they don't necessarily like to hang right out with the does, and they'll move off and get a little ways away from. I don't think they like all the activity and all the deer in that area per se, and they like to kind of hang off by themselves a little bit. So
That's a great point. That I have a theory about that, and because I've witnessed a lot of things about the real old bucks, 5.5 and older. They may not be on a migration trail, for example. They'll be off to the side a little bit. I think they've figured out how to be efficient and safe, because that's how they get old, right? They're efficient in the fact that they're not getting chased by coyotes because they're off the trail, maybe by 100 yards downwind. They're efficient because they go there because they're going to catch that one last doe that's still in heat coming down to the deer yard. So he hangs out of the deer yard. He doesn't stay in it, getting chased by coyotes. They bed by themselves and maybe don't even go in the deer yard. You know, so and a lot of times when there's a ton of does around, there's coyotes now.
Right.
So
Right.
I think that they've really adapted those old bucks that have been chased and hounded by bears and coyotes and people and shot at, and all that's happened in their life. They become very reclusive.
right.
You know, and I'm not going to say they're not huntable by any stretch. They're there and they're in the woods too, but you do get surprised by where they are. You know, a lot of times they're out in the open on a hardwood bowl because they can see everything.
Right.
You know,
And well, I think what it is too is that, you know, the old saying is there's safety in numbers. I think the bucks are like, nope,
Yeah.
nope, because the numbers attract predators, and I don't want to be a statistic of
Yeah.
a predator.
Right.
Well, think about how many times pre-rut you'll see like a small buck just like tagging along with its mom or a doe group. You don't really see that pre-rut
right?
with big bucks. I mean, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah,
Well,
You know.
and it always seems like too when you bump a nice buck and it's early on and they're still running together, they always let the little guys go first. It's very
Yeah,
anytime
that's
I've
it,
ever
right.
seen multiple bucks, I don't think I've ever had the big one come out first. It's always
yeah,
the little guys are out first and then the big one will be behind. So sometimes that can work against you because you're holding out for the big one and he might never show up and the little ones are gone by then, but you know, that's okay. It's
Yeah.
all par for the course.
so let me ask you, and I'm asking for personal reasons because I had to finally set in my mind that I want to go high again. I think like if you listen to the podcast, you know I started out, I read Larry Benight's book, and I'm like, I got to get to the top of a 3,000 footer. That's all I knew. And then I met our friend Kevin Stone, and I started hunting swamps more. But I was like, I want to get back to my roots and go high. But then on the other hand, talking to my cousin, and I think you said the same thing. If there's anything after deep snow, the second biggest thing to drive them out of the mountains is drought.
Right.
Should I go high? Should I go high this year?
I'll probably go high too, so I'll go with
All
you.
right, thanks,
we'll
buddy.
die on that mountain together.
That's literally right.
Yeah.
That's funny.
No, it's I don't know. It's just same thing. I've always heard like you got to get high, you got to get high. But I've noticed too, some of the hills in the area we hunt, you get up over 2,500, 2,800 feet, and it gets so thick on top that you can't hardly make it through it. And it's like, I just when I'm in those spots, I always say to myself, like, do you see yourself killing one in here? Because like, if you do, it's going to be right on top of you. So
Yeah.
I always find I'm on an edge of the top if I can and try and skirt around and get like in that transition where I love ledges. I love when I can get to a ledge and go over and peek over ledges and look down below or kind of look out along it because, I mean, if I was a buck and I knew I was being pursued by a predator, I think I would sit there and watch off that edge or be just below it where you could have a chance to get away from it. So, yeah, the very tippy tops are tough. You find a lot of sign. It always feels good when you're up there because you'll find scrapes and rubs and, you know, usually some big rubs right on top. But I don't know if they necessarily spend a ton of time right on the tippy top. I think it's always that
I think
transition edge.
I agree with that. I think at nighttime they get up there and they sort of lay their sign down and then they just from beds, from tracking for 20 years now, I don't think I've ever had one just laying on the very top of a mountain. It's always someplace where they can pitch off, get away, but also have access to go up and over the top. Right. So, and I'll tell a secret too, and you may agree. Let me ask you if you agree with this. If you have a mountain and the wind is coming over and it's swirling, or a ridge line, the wind is coming over, I've found that those bucks will lay down or run that ridge where it's swirling because they can catch all the scent from that entire valley. And it literally is, and you will watch, at least in the track, you'll see where they'll go. They'll pitch their foot out and they'll stick their neck out and they'll sniff, 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 and then just keep going. And they're looking down this hill, downwind.
Mm-hmm.
They're catching the thermal from the other side. So that's where I walk. That's where I still hunt.
Mm-hmm.
And that's how I caught my buck track this past year in the Adirondacks I literally, in the video, you'll see it. I say that. I'm going to walk on this side of the taco shell, I call it.
Right.
And that's where I caught the track, and then I tracked him and shot him on the other side. So.
Right.
You ever?
Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, I was going to say.
Do you agree with that?
Oh, 100%. I mean, they don't call them a ridge runner for no reason. Right. They get on that top, and like you said, you can see it in their tracks where they'll scent check.
Yes.
1,000-acre valley in 5 minutes,
That's
and then
right.
they'll move on to the next ridge. And I mean, what more efficient way to check an entire valley for whether it's predator or a hot doe down there?
That's right.
And then every once in a while, you'll see where they'll bomb off of it. They either like something that they smelled coming up out of there, or they'll bomb away from where the wind's coming from because they're catching a predator scent coming up from the backside. Makes them very tough to kill when they're in those spots.
Yeah.
I never
Agreed.
thought of it that way. They got up on that ledge. They can smell, like you said, that whole valley. I'm picturing one valley in particular where I hunt, and I think you're right. And they can key on exactly where it is, bomb down, check that doe group.
Right.
That's a brilliant way to think about it.
I did catch one buck on the leeward edge of the taco shell, as you like to call it.
Yeah.
The cliffs of Dover. The wind would come up and it would swirl in this one spot. Well, I came up the other side, which was, as you know, it's a hellish steepish climb, but there's this one little spot where you can go up in, and I was creeping up there. It was open weekend of muzzleloader, and I'm like, it's too quiet up here. I mean,
Yeah, when the animals are silent.
All the animals were silent. I know there's something up here.
Bear or deer.
I'm looking around, and I went past it, and it went out about 10 yards behind, off to my right. It went out, and it was like, it must have been sleeping. I was walking on the sphagomoss on the top, and just creeping. I'm sitting there looking, and the wind must have swirled just right, and blew right out.
Right?
Yeah.
Never had a chance.
Right?
Yeah.
Because it was all the leaves were still on, you know.
Yeah, sure.
So,
Yeah.
I want to ask, too, something I talk about that I've observed is a lot of the really good hunters around the Southern Adirondacks are primarily still hunters, but also incorporate setting into their technique. Do you find that you do some setting, or are you just moving?
So I'm a super impatient person. I've tried to sit. and I always question every spot I sit. So I'm like, oh, I need to be up there.
Yeah, you
so
got-
I'll move
yeah.
up there, and then I'll get up there, and I'm like, man, I should have stayed down there where I was at. So I'll move over. I struggle to sit.
Yeah.
I can do small stints of it, but like an all day thing, I just don't think it's in my DNA.
I know.
I
tell you,
And not that it's not efficient, but I struggle with it.
Yeah.
Bob's figured out a way to mix it all together.
I do that. I will do that. I will walk and I'll say, well, this looks good, and I'll sit there for a while, and I'll get impatient, just like you, and I'll say, well, I'll just move over there. Maybe I can get a better view of this area.
Right.
But I'll just creep, and in that walk, creep, and stop, walk, creep, stop. You know what I mean? And it works.
Yeah.
It's paid off for you.
Right. And I think I've heard you say before on the podcast, if you sound like a deer too, deer are curious. So if you're moving a little bit and then stopping and hanging out, they might not know the difference. I don't think that they always think, well, that's got to be a predator. Sometimes they think, well, maybe there's another deer over there. Let's go poke around and see. And, and I think sometimes it can work to your advantage too. Yeah, I'm not necessarily always on the move in one direction, nonstop, but I do kind of like what you do. Move around a little bit, stand, maybe not for an hour at a time, but for 15, 20 minutes, and then I'll move a little bit more, and I like to cover ground that way. I just love seeing new territory, though. I love the woods. I love being around in it and moving through it. So
Do you use a grunt call or anything like that while you're moving?
I do. So
You do?
I had my first experience with a grunt call last year, where I felt like it was 100% I killed the deer because of the grunt call. So it was pretty cool to have that and to have the interaction or whatever. And yeah, I do grunt. I can't think of a lot of scenarios where I would necessarily pull the deer back with it. But yeah, I do grunt while I.
Tell us about that buck if you would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we had hunted. We were out of the.
Is it that one?
No, not this
Okay.
one. We were hunting out of our tent, and we'd gone up onto this big high ridge, and we had worked our way up along the river in the morning, and seen a ton of deer down by the river. Tons of sign, tons of deer. Another dry year last year. We didn't have much rain at all. Very similar to this year.
Yeah, very.
Yeah.
A lot of rain in the spring, and then it dried right off. So we'd hunted down along the river, and I had worked up onto the side of the one hill there, and I'd worked a bench down, and I actually came into a nice, he was a 7-pointer, and I have some great footage of him, and I let him go. And I always say, too, with these deer, if they wouldn't run, they would stand a lot. When they run, it makes it tough because it's just the predator instinct kicks in, and you want to shoot at them, especially if it's got any sort of a rack on it. It's hard to judge how big they are, per se, and I love to kill Adirondack bucks, so if I see one running, it's just the trigger.
Yeah.
But this deer in particular, I'd been grunting and going through the woods, and I went to come down off this long, open hardwood ridge. It kind of had like a hump in it, and then it dropped off steep on one side with big ledges on the other. And I was blowing the grunt tube and, taking 10, 15 steps and watching. Well, I blew the grunt tube and went to walk, and I just happened to catch on the hill, and he was standing there all poised up, looking up the hill at me. So I saw him and immediately pulled the gun up, ready to shoot, and saw he was a nice buck, clicked safety off, came down his neck, and was ready to pull the trigger, and I was like, he's just standing there. So I pulled back up, looked at his rack, and I was like, okay, he's nice. We're a long ways in. It's early. It was the first morning out of the tent camp. I'm like, So I kind of watch him. I'm like, I'm going to wait and see if he turns and get a better judge on him. And he turned. Nice buck. I would be happy to kill him, but for some reason, it just didn't feel like the one to kill that day. So I kind of watched him a little bit, clicked safety off, put the gun down. I was like, nope, he's going to get the pass today. Well, then I started playing around with him with the grunt tube. And I don't know if that deer had never experienced like a buck grunting like that at him, or if he couldn't tell what I was. I had perfect wind. Wind was coming from him to me right up the ridge. He had no chance of winding me on that particular spot. So I've actually heard Hal Blood talk about it, blowing at a deer if they run. So I'm like, I'm going to try blowing at him and see what he does, just to see how they react. What better chance do you get to play than to play around with a buck? So I blew at him a couple of times, and man, he didn't like it. Started stomping his feet and poising up like he almost wanted to fight. It's like, oh, this is awesome. So I got my phone out and I'm recording him. And that deer worked a half circle around me for probably 300 or 400 yards for probably a 15-minute span. And he didn't know what to make of me. And eventually he got on my high side and got my wind and took off. And
Did he see you? Were you directly out in the open?
I was directly out. I mean, as he caught me as open as I could be.
So he really was a deer that probably never saw a person.
Yeah, that's what it kind of felt like. And I'll show you guys a picture of him so you can. He was a 7-pointer. I think he had a brow on one side, was missing the brow on the other. Respectable buck. But yeah, I don't know if he'd never seen a person in that particular area, so didn't know what to make of it. There was a lot of bear too in that area, so maybe he was confused, didn't know. But it was a lot of fun to play around with him. Well, of course, after he ran, he's like, boy, that was probably a mistake. I probably shouldn't have done that.
I know. I've seen
Just talking about that.
Yeah.
Mark, yeah.
You almost feel, which, in my opinion, that's a kill. You had that deer, you had him dead to rights. So sometimes it's more fun to let them go and to know what they might become. So I worked off that hill, climbed up the other side, and it's about the ridge we were hunting, probably 2,200 feet, 2,300 feet. It gets pretty thick on top, a lot of beech whip with some spruce in it. So I was working my way across that, and I had bumped in or gotten back with my buddy who was just on the other side of the ridge from me, and we were just going to still hunt this ridge. It went right back to our tent. We were going to still hunt it right till dark, right to the tent. Perfect situation, head in the right direction, just take our time, work our way back through. So we worked down this ridge for probably 2 or 3 hours, just going real slow, and historically this ridge is always loaded with sign. So you kind of done your homework on it. Yeah. Not a lot of oak on it, mostly a beech ridge. There's a few oak here and there, but there wasn't a lot of a mass crop last year. But it's a transition between two big rivers, so we figured maybe they'll just be going back and forth across the top of that. So we work our way down for a couple hours, and it was right before dark, and it came to a real steep spot, and it kind of went down in a belly on the side of the hill there. I call them avalanche chutes. I've heard them referred to that before. It's just like a cut down through the side of the hill, and I stopped there for a second, and I was listening. And I could hear something walking, and I called to we carry Garmin's, and I called to my buddy. I was like, hey, I can hear something walking. Are you walking right now? And he's like, no, I've been standing here for 10 minutes. I was like, okay. I was like, just hang out for a second. I can hear something. So I stood there for a minute, and I looked off to my right, and I see a couple of partridge take off like 100 yards down the hill. And I just remember I was like, I don't think I would have bumped them. They're too far away, and I don't think that would have been me, Well, this walking didn't move. It seemed like it was right in this one spot, and I'm looking. So I had the grunt tube out, and I'm blowing the grunt tube. Nothing. And all of a sudden, I just catch the top of a rack on the other side of the hill, go through a hole, and I said, oh, that's a buck. That's something, he's down there. So I thought maybe I'd bumped him. Well, I heard him stop again, or what I thought was stopped, and then I heard him walking, and then I heard a blow. And I'm like, oh, he got me. He winded me, which I found hard to believe because the wind was coming up off the bottom up the hill. So I'm just puzzled at this point. So I'm still blowing the grunt tube, and the walking kind of quit. So I figured, well, if I can get down in this dip and get to the next rise there, he'll never see me. He might hear me, but he'll never see me. So I'm just going to blow the grunt tube and run down in here and get to the next side. And I figured if I got to that next side, I would be able to see him on that flat on the other side of it there. So I hurried up and got down through there as quick as I could, trying to be quiet, still blowing the grunt tube while I'm going. Well, I got to the top, and I shouldered my rifle and everything, and I came up over because I figured it would be a 50, 75-yard shot right there. And I came up over, and I always like to just poke my eyes above a ridge and, kind of look out over top of it. And I'm looking, nothing. And it kind of had enough of a belly where I needed to get up to be able to see right to the other side of it, blowing the grunt tube. Poking, and all of a sudden, like 75 yards down in front of me, he came back up over the hill. But he was, again, all poised up, like big square chest on him, head back, ears flipped out. He wanted to know what the grunt call was. And as he came up, I saw he had a nice rack. I just drew down on him and shot. And he ended up like 185, 190-pound 8-pointer, real gnarly, knobby side on. Awesome. He was an old deer.
Awesome.
But it was cool because I felt like with that grunt tube, I don't know what it was about that day, but I think those bucks wanted to fight that day.
Yeah.
The one earlier in the morning kind of seemed squared and poised, and it's weird when you see him kind of almost like
puffed up.
Yeah, like a bar fight, like what? Who's that?
Testosterone is flowing.
Yeah, exactly.
What was the date?
That was November 6th last year. November 7th has historically always been my favorite day in the woods. I love November 7th, and this was on the 6th, the day before. Yeah. But I actually backtracked them there. It was dry leaves, and I backtracked them because I wanted to know what had happened, what I was hearing.
Right.
And I found a brand new scrape that he had made. And I think what happened is when he made the scrape, maybe when he hit the licking branch, I've heard that it'll poke him in the nose and it'll make him almost sneeze or blow when that happens. And I kind of, because it had a nice licking branch that hung right down into it. So it was kind of neat to find that. And of course, my buddy, when I shot, was, what is it? What, of course, the excitement of that is
the best.
the best. I mean, that's
the best.
It's hard to beat. So it was a fun night in camp. So
Yeah, that's awesome.
for sure.
Yep.
How far back is your tent camp?
So we're 4.5 miles from Blacktop.
That's perfect.
There you go.
That's what we do in the remote.
This podcast is brought to you in part by Minus 33. Minus 33 is a wool and textile manufacturer based in New Hampshire that is producing top-notch merino wool base layers and socks. Layering your clothes when you're hunting the big woods is key. As we've discussed on the podcast, the conditions and distances involved in hunting the Adirondacks mean that you have to take your gear seriously. You can't afford to not have the best gear. And that's particularly true of your base layers. Minus 33 long johns should be an essential part of your gear system to keep you warm while you're out in the Adirondack backcountry. As for socks, I've tried dozens of pairs of wool socks over the years, and Minus 33 Heritage socks are by far the comfiest. If you go on the Minus 33 website, you can read about the care that they've taken to create these socks. And once you put them on, the difference is obvious. They are perfect for long days hoofing it up and down mountains in the Dacks. So get prepped for the next season now by clicking on the link in the description and getting stocked up on Minus 33 merino base layers and socks. Happy hunting. The Adirondack Hunt Podcast is brought to you in part by Seek Outside Tents. Seek Outside is an American company producing lightweight, versatile tents and titanium stoves. The Big Woods Bucks team and their friends have hunted the Adirondacks with Seek Outside hot tents and found that it's the best way to get back into the wilderness areas and have a remote hunt. With few roads and hiking trails the only way to access the extensive backcountry of the Adirondacks, your pack needs to be as light as possible. Seek Outside's lightweight tents and stoves enable you to get back there into the most remote country and hunt mature Adirondack bucks that likely have never seen a human being. Use code BWB at checkout on SeekOutside.com and get 10% off your Seek Outside gear. Good luck on your remote hunt in the big woods.
Okay.
Something I want to talk about is drives. Or group still hunts, whatever you want to call them, but coordinating as a team, because it's not something we get to talk about them as much because we interview a lot of still hunters and trackers. But I think it's interesting information for the viewer because you might have a group of buddies and you might want to try it. So I'm wondering if you can describe generally how you set about to plan a drive or group still hunt, where you're sending people, how far apart you are from the other person for safety. Can you speak to that a little bit? Because I know you had said before you.
Sure. Yeah, I love nothing better than a good old deer drive.
I think it's
they're
awesome.
A blast.
Yeah.
We do a lot of it, and we have a lot of fun with it. Yeah. So normally what we do is just historically knowing a lot of times it's the same hills you hunt year after year after year. So we just have kind of learned where the deer run off the hills. Any spine, any long feature on a hill that has a long ramp off of it. Normally, that historically is going to run a deer off of it. So we'll try to kind of start at the far corners of a hill and block off the one end of it. And as far as distance between, we normally always try to put at least one land barrier between each other. The last thing we want is that we want it where you can shoot any direction. You don't have to worry about.
That's important.
Yeah, it's the last thing we want to do is go out and have to worry about if we're going to shoot our hunting buddy or not. So we always put a land feature or plenty of distance to where it's not possible to.
Yeah, you can't see each other.
Right, exactly.
300 yards.
Yep. And sometimes it works against you because you'll follow the tracks off the hill and. And it's funny how they can find that spot right between two guys and perfectly too. But it happens a lot, and that's all fun. That's all part of it. But so we normally try to space it out to where there's a land feature, plenty of distance, and then we use the Garmins and we just kind of communicate to each other like, okay, we're coming off the back slope now. And when that happens, there's no more shooting onto the face of the hill. It's only deer off the hill or going out the backside. Because, again, we want to have fun, not have to worry about that.
How many people generally are you incorporating?
Our normal is like somewhere between 6 and 10 guys.
Oh
is no-
wow,
yeah.
That's a good
That's
drive.
big.
Yeah, yeah. So when we're doing drives, we try to get like 6 to. Now days where we've had 12 guys, and you're really efficient in the woods. Then I mean, you're covering entire mountains, and I say really efficient. They still get out. There's
Yeah, of course.
That's the
You know,
thing. It's not a sure deal from what I
No.
understand, and I haven't done. I've done 6-man drives, 4, but nothing
Right.
as big. But I think a lot of people get the impression it's like a slaughter. But I mean, wouldn't you say most drives you don't get a buck? I mean, you got to
Oh,
do
yeah.
multiple different drives
Right.
to.
Yeah, you can go into the woods with 12 guys in a day, and if you come out with 1 buck, it's a great day.
Right.
You've
That's
had
right.
an awesome
That's
day,
right.
you know.
Right.
So
That's right.
this idea that it's like a guarantee, it's the farthest thing from it. We, even with 12 guys, the vastness of where we're hunting, you don't see each other at all during the drive. You might see an orange hat way up on the ridge coming across it, but I mean your distance is so far that it's not like you're hunting with holding hand. It's not a southern tier drive where you're hooting and hollering and you can see the guy 100 yards to your left, and it's
Which is why you're hooting and hollering.
Exactly.
People think it's to scare the deer. The truth of the matter is it's so that you know where each other is.
right.
Yeah.
And you watch them do it in Europe with the driven boar hunts and stuff like that, and they have bells.
Yeah.
And they're all yelling, and the
Right.
game is going crazy. But that's a whole different
Right.
world. What do you shoot gun wise?
I shoot a 7600 and 35 Whalen. I got it. They did a release of them. The one I have is a no comb stock, so
Yep.
you can shoot it with the open
It's a
sight.
synthetic.
Synthetic, yep.
Yep.
I had it the stock dipped. I love it. I've shot it now for, I think I've had it 8 years now. It's been an awesome rifle. I really enjoy it. I have one in 30-06. I have a bunch of them, but I have one in 30-06 cut down to carbine, and I don't know why, but that 30-06 wallops when you kick that thing or shoot that thing. I feel like the kick or recoil in that 30-06 is way more than that 35. I don't know why. I don't know if it's a synthetic versus a wood stock or what, but
What kind? Is it a 760 or 7600?
7600. Yep.
Does it have the high comb stock?
The older one,
Yes.
it does have a high
Yeah,
comb stock.
That's why
yeah.
it's a straighter stock. And so it directs the recoil into you.
Okay. yeah.
And do you run a scope?
I do. So I run this buck here, I call him the 9-power buck, and you can probably imagine why I call him the 9-power. I had an incident with a scope, and I always used to shoot a 3-9 loophole on it, and I always really liked it. It was a good scope. I found I was always messing around with it and adjusting and trying to, I don't carry binoculars, so always looking out, trying to see deer and see what they had. So last year I went to a Vortex 1-4 power.
Yep.
I'll never go back.
Yeah, of course.
Love it. I
Yeah,
love
the
it.
one to-
It's-
The 1-4 is it.
yeah, it
So
really changed the way the field of view is huge in it. Fast, and I really like a red dot in my scope.
Yep.
I feel like it's fast, quick target acquisition with it. Especially when you're shooting at a running deer or something that you've just jumped. It's just one less thing to equate. And I actually last year I bought the TRC mounts for it.
Yep.
So you can pop it off and have the peep sight if you get snowed out and you can't see through the scope. At least you still have the ability to shoot your rifle. Because I can't tell you how many times on snow days I'll pull up the gun and I'm like, man, even if I see something, I don't stand a chance. I can't see through my scope. It's all fogged up, and
Yeah.
it's always been a struggle with that. So
Forgive me, I got to put a quick plug. Our 1-6 Skinner has the red dot in it.
And so does the 1-4.
And the 1x4 has
does
a
it
red
also have it?
or a green.
Yeah.
Your choice.
I actually have been looking at the Skinner too because I saw you guys were
That's all I run.
yeah. And one thing I really like with the Skinner versus the Vortex is the Vortex, your battery and light are on the rear of the scope.
Yep. Yeah, it's got that weird thing on the side.
Yeah,
hanging off.
Skinner is on the side, correct? So it's like a third post,
turret.
and I like that streamline. You wouldn't believe the amount of times that little bump where that you turn your dial on gets in the way, gets snubbed on stuff. So I think I'm going to switch to a Skinner and get one with the with that on the side because I like the streamlinedness of it a lot
Yeah,
more.
and it's got a German number 4 crosshair for driven hunts.
Yeah,
And it's got a green or red dot
right.
to choose.
Right.
It's cool.
Yeah.
It's an amazing scope, and Andy Larson did a good job with the scopes, and he doesn't mark them up. All the manufacturers just rip you off.
Right.
You
Yeah.
know? So
Yeah. The price point is good on them, and I'm definitely going to try one on the rifle
That's
this
what
year.
I've been shooting for years
Right.
now, and they work awesome.
Yeah.
Really robust.
Yep.
So when you're carrying your scoped rifle, you keep it in a 1 most of the time? 1 power?
I actually keep it at a 2. On the 1, I could see the barrel,
Yeah.
and it's tough. That almost throws me off a little bit. So I keep it on a 2 just so I don't see the end of the barrel.
That's what almost everybody does.
Yeah.
We all keep it at 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I find that gives you just enough zoom that you can still make a shot efficiently out there. And then if you crank it up to 4 power, you can make a distance shot with it if you need to. So yeah.
Sure you can.
I've never killed one with a peep. I would love to, or open sighted. So that's another thing another challenge in the book I would like to do. But all of mine have been killed with a scope.
Yep.
That seems to be a theme in the Adirondacks, at least. Again, the Southern Adirondacks, people hunt with scopes. The Massets all hunt with scopes.
You good?
They're Central Adirondacks anyway, but Adirondacks scopes just seem more popular for what it is. Guy Swears uses a scope. Jim Abbott uses a scope.
Yeah.
Wouldn't you say that's because we have the big hardwood bowls?
Right.
Yeah, I think
Yeah.
We really do have longer shots. I mean, how far were you when you shot that big 8 with the fast fire?
Oh, those are like 125 yards.
Yeah. I mean, that's a poke.
Yeah.
In the woods. That's a long way.
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah, I've killed a couple at 125, 140 yards, and I've killed them at 8 yards too. But it varies from any distance, and that's what I do like the 1 to 4 for that reason. Is it does kind of cover all the bases if you need it.
It really is a red dot on 1 power.
Right.
You know.
Exactly.
It's an amazing thing.
Yep.
Well, that's a good segue. We ought to talk about this.
Yeah. Let's talk. Bring that around. This is so
up
cool.
here and
Pack mount.
yeah, the pack mount. And I
Boy,
love what you
he's
said.
got a
It's
big
like,
head on him, boy. How much did he weigh?
I didn't have a scale. We've killed a lot of them, and we've scaled them and seen the weights. I think he was a 200-pound deer. He was the biggest deer I've ever killed and ever. Our group killed one a couple years ago that was bigger than it, but outside of that, I don't think I've ever personally seen one bigger. He just even the way his ham looked, laying on the ground, just long deer, big long nose on him.
Yeah, that's a huge head.
Yeah, he was a big deer. Yep.
It's a Maine buck. That's what he looks like, doesn't it?
Big Roman nose on him.
Yeah.
I love the pack mount. You were saying you'd love a pack mount, but not until you pack it out. Which,
That's right. I'd said I wanted to do a pack mount, but it had to be one that was packed out. And he was a tent camp buck, too. He's one of the 2 I've killed out of tent camp. This was the first year we went in. We'd gone in and scouted the area out and picked this area out to try. So we went in the summertime. We hung cameras, picked the spot out, found a nice spring to get water out of, and a good spot where we weren't blowing off hills, hopefully, with our scent and stuff. And we went in the week before we were going into tent, and we carried our tent in and set it up and checked cameras, and we had a couple of nice bucks right on camera, not far from the tent spot. And we had a big wide tent on there, and that was the one we were after. Like, okay, we got a big boy in there, So it gave you it pumped you up for the whole scenario. And actually, I killed him on the same ridge that I killed the 8 last year. They both were killed on the same ridge, but
we'll have to trade waypoints later.
Or not.
Yeah, we're not.
Yep. But no, so with this one we had same thing, kind of hunted almost the same way I killed the 8 last year, the same type of thing, but I had gone one ridge farther, and we kind of were all together that day, and we were working up the side of this hill towards the top of it, and we were brand new to the territory. This was our first time on the hill. We had never hunted in there, didn't know what to expect, and there's a big cut that goes between these two mountains, and they kind of go up, and they almost join on top with like a married peak a little bit that has a big saddle on it. And looking at topo map, it just looked like a good spot for deer. It got a bunch of access points to different areas. Just assumed from the elevation it was going to be good. So I was on the farther from the 2 guys I was hunting, or 3 guys I was hunting with. I was on the farther ridge, so I had worked my way up. Well, I picked the wrong ridge. It was bear country. It was all big rocks and crazy thick and ledges, and you couldn't get through anywhere. So I kind of was picking my way through, not really hunting, not good hunting. It was just trying to get to something that I could hunt, I felt like. And I worked my way up through, got to the top, and it was the thickest spot I've ever been in the Adirondacks. You could not, I ended up
Was it
putting
spruce? Was it all spruce?
spruce,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
spruce. Like
I call that the crown of thorns.
I've heard you refer to that, and after you said that, I said there is no better description of it because
Yeah.
it's almost unhuntable. I don't even know how you would get a shot off in
I
it.
don't even think the bucks ever go up there. That's
That's-
like the top of Blue Mountain is like that, and I've crawled through it
Yeah.
and thought this is dumb.
Like
what am
I just
doing?
can't imagine a deer with a rack of any sort trying to get through that stuff and be able to do it and feel safe at all. And I mean, I guess in the right situation they would, but so I kind of was just blasting through it, just trying to get to something that I could hunt. And I pushed my way through fast, trying to get out to the other side. And it did open up into a couple of pockets, and there was sign up there. It would almost be like a little pocket that would stretch from side to top that maybe they would cross over there, and use that as a transition point because I'm sure they know every little nook and cranny they can go. And I got through the top, and I called to the guys on the radio, and I was like, I'm up on this top. I have nothing up here. This is terrible. It was getting along towards evening time. I said, I asked them where they were at, and they told me, and I said, well, would you guys mind if I dropped off this towards you and just sat on the side of this hill watching that bull as you guys come up through there, because I didn't want to mess up their hunt. And, of course, the guys I hunt with are like, no, like that's where you need to go. Like, you're there already. So I dropped down off of it and got into this bowl, and it was still pretty thick. A lot of little spruce mixed in with beech whips, but it was deer country. It was open
deery.
enough.
We call it being deery.
Yeah, exactly. It was deery. You could get through there. There was a little bit of buck sign in there. So I got up onto a rise where I could see a little bit. It looked like an old deer trail there. So I was like, yeah, I'm just going to hang out here and wait for you guys to come up through. Well, it had been about probably 5 or 10 minutes, and my one buddy called on the radio, and he said, hey, I've been pushing tracks all morning here up this ridge, and I think there's deer out in front of me, so just be ready because you might run into them up there or see them. So I was like, okay, yeah, and just kind of hung out there, not expecting much after coming through the crown of thorns and crawling down off that. And it wasn't but a couple minutes later, I see just the back of a deer come over the hill, and I said, oh, there's one. And the next thing I saw was this rack bounding off the top of the hill down. And I said, oh, that's a beauty.
So did your buddies kick it over to you?
They did.
Okay.
Yeah. I think it was very hot that day. The day I killed him, it was almost 70 degrees out.
Yeah.
And I just think he just kept getting up the hill just far enough ahead of him. I don't think he wanted to run hard in a long ways.
Right.
I mean,
Yeah,
it
he's in
was
his
hot.
snowsuit.
Go a little bit and lay down, go a little bit and lay down.
And I think he was just staying ahead. We were still hunting, so we weren't pushing real hard, going real slow up through there. And I think he had a doe with him and another smaller buck. And I think that they were comfortable enough and it was thick enough. They were hoping that they would end up getting around them up there, and they just so happened to keep bumping them, And so I saw him come off the hill. Well, when I'd been in that crown of thorns, when I'd come off the face of it to the saddle where I was sitting, I'd turned my scope up to 9 because I thought I saw a deer down in there, and I was scoping, trying to forgot.
Yeah.
Left that scope on 9. So he comes off with following the doe, not chasing her, but just they had bumped them that time, and I think they said, okay, enough is enough. It was cool enough now. I think they were getting out of Dodge. They'd been bumped one too many times. Well, they hit that trail I was standing on, and that doe turned and came right straight at me to the point I don't know exactly where she went, but I always told my buddies I felt like I almost stepped out of the trail to let her go by, and I watched her. I wasn't taking my eyes off of him. Well, he came around, and we locked eyes. And when we locked eyes, I would say he was no more than 5 or 6 steps away.
Oh my
And he kind of like put the brakes on a little bit, like, what are you, So I pull up to shoot. Can't see anything. You can't even see. The scope is on 9 power, and he's so close I can't tell what I'm aiming at. Well, at that time, he turned, and there was a blowdown there, and he bounded over top this blowdown. So you have a 200-pound buck at 5 yards bounding over top of a blowdown. Panic set in quickly. I swung, and this is all in the matter of a split second. It probably was 2 seconds long, but I still remember I dropped my gun down because I had just recently put the Illuma caps on my scope, and I had put those down in that spruce too because it was so thick and I didn't want to tear it up. My first thought was I left my scope cap down. I'm capped out. So I was going to open them. Well, when I dropped the gun, I could see they were open, and it immediately clicked. You left your scope on 9 power.
Isn't it amazing how many thoughts
That
go
quickly.
through your head The human mind and brain are amazing.
Fast.
Computer.
Yeah. Well, then it's automatically, these guys are never going to let me live this down.
I gotta let lead fly.
Yeah, so
Point and shoot.
well, he hit at the top of the bank, and it kind of dropped off pretty steep behind me down into this little bowl. He hit at the top of the bank, and he went to take one more down over there, and I said, this is my only chance, because I knew I was never – it was so thick, if he got out into there, I didn't feel I'd have a good chance to get him. So I swung, and I rolled my gun over, and I looked down the side of the barrel and just put it on body and let it – well, I ended up hitting him in the side of the neck, and he piled right to the bottom. It hit him, and it must have deadened him in air, and he just went limp and went down over the bank and piled right into the bottom. And the feeling of relief was almost unbearable.
Yeah.
So I still didn't know what he was exactly. I knew he was a nice buck, but I wasn't sure. So, the jitters and the shakes start kicking in, and I run down over the hill to make sure he was done. And I get down, and he had landed on his rack and piled right up over. So I couldn't see any of the rack. Body was all piled up, and I pulled him out, and it was just, excitement was it was unreal. It was a great feeling. First year in tent camp, and I thought it was a big wide 10 we had on camera, but it was different. He would have been an 11. He'd broken off the one there, trying to be a 12, and it was incredible. And my buddies were only a couple hundred yards from me when I shot them. They were hanging right in there till the very end.
Yeah.
Before they moved. So.
And how far back in from tent camp were you at this point?
So at this point, we were 2.5 miles from the tent.
From the tent, and then another 4.5 from Blacktop.
He was 6.5 miles from Blacktop.
Wow,
Yeah,
unbelievable.
Yep.
Talk about just an old buck way back in. That's crazy. And then you packed him out on this really rustic wood frame.
Is that what you?
We fashioned it up quick.
You made it. Lash it all together.
That's
on the
right.
trees.
Yep, that was my blanket I'd slept with the night before.
Right. That's incredible. What was the date on that one?
November 7th.
Yep.
That was a November 7th buck.
That is your
month of
day.
November.
Yeah.
11/7.
Killing month.
Yep.
That's cool.
Beautiful.
Austin, you want to hop in?
Austin, why don't you hop in here real quick? All right, let's take a break.
Hi everyone, team member Mark Sharon here. A lot of you know that I've been coaching people with addictions for more than 36 years. Well, today we have an exciting announcement to make. While Michelle and I will continue to personally coach people as we always have, we're now providing a training course for those of you out there who might want to become a certified Freedom Model coach. This new coaching certification course is available to those with established coaching practices, those who are psychologists or psychiatrists or therapists, or anyone who is looking to get into the field of helping people with addictions to solve their problem for good. If you would like to get on the applicant list, email me directly at info@thefreedommodel.org. Again, here's that email address, info@thefreedommodel.org. We look forward to your interest and potential of working together to change the way people across the world are helped with addictions. Take care.
All right, so we're back with Christian Bills here. We're loving the stories. So I think we want to do our last segment here on guns. You've got a wicked gun you were just showing us. I love this thing.
Yeah.
It's just a beaut, and it's just the action is so smooth.
So this is a 7600 chambered in 35 Whalen. Mark was telling me he was a part of the design team on it. It's a no comb stock on or low comb. So it's designed to be shot open sighted, which I actually like it better even with a scope. It just seems to pull nice for me. I guess maybe I have a taller face. I don't know. So I pick up and catch a scope a little bit easier, but it's a fast draw with it. Short, light. I like carrying it. It balances perfectly when you carry it. If you carry it just in front of the receiver, I can carry that thing all day like that. No sling. It's a working tool, that's for sure. It's not a showpiece. It's got scratches and dings and bangs and rust spots, but that's what gives it character. I run the 1-4 on it, like I was telling you guys. Might be running the 1-4 Skinner on it this year. We'll have to see. But this has the Tory Rifle Company made these mounts. I saw them. I forget who was telling about them or was kind of advertising them, but they've got a quick cam lever on them.
Here, hold the microphone for him while he does it.
So you can pop the scope off, and then you have a peeped gun that you can shoot it with a peep sight. I can't tell you how many times we've been after deer and gotten into spots, and it's nasty. And I like to carry my gun in my hand when I'm hunting. I don't like to sling it. I don't like to try not to scope cap it. Try to keep it open and ready to go. Well, I can't tell you how many times I've just do a scope check, can't see through it. Whether it's the heat from your hands generate a ton of heat when you're sweating like that, and it'll fog the end up really quick. Comes out from underneath your sleeve, or you tuck it up underneath your arm trying to protect it. Well, then you build up heat under there too. So I just love the idea that if I check it and I can't see through it and it's getting bad, I can pop that scope off and I have a peep sight and I still stand a chance at killing one. If you're into the thick of it,
We call that a convertible.
Yeah.
That's what we call it.
Yeah.
Convertible.
Yep. Yeah. No, it's been a great rifle, and I've really enjoyed using it, and I have a couple of them, and this is always the one I end up grabbing out of the gun cabinet. So
Very cool.
That's one of my favorite pump guns I've ever handled.
yeah.
It's just a gem.
And then the slide is nice and smooth on it. And I was telling Mark with the 35 Whalen, which he says that the reason they call it a Whalen is because it wails. But when you shoot this thing, most of the time I find I just throw my hand back forward on the receiver and there's another one chambered. I have, knock on wood, I have not short chucked one yet. It just seems to naturally, when you're holding on to that forend, it gives you enough recoil that it brings it back, and you just throw it back forward, and away you go. So, and I've emptied it before.
Yep.
Yep. But then
This is the next gun is the one I'm most interested in.
yeah. So this is my grandfather's 30-30. Can't tell you how many miles this thing has on it, but you can still see his finger marks in it where he carried it for years. I believe he told me. And I'd have to look at the date and see if it cross-references or not. But I believe he said that he got this for his 16th birthday, and he carried it all the way up through his hunting career. And this is what he hunted with right till the very end. But it's got a bunch of hand checking that he did on it with a paring knife and a propane torch. He would hand check them with it in the evening, and that's what they did. And he kept it in really good shape. So the goal is to kill one with this someday. So. Just the commitment to putting a season in with it,
Yeah.
So.
Yeah, it's funny because when you love the romance of a gun, so a gun is a romantic item. It's emotional. I don't care what anybody says. Once you've killed something with it, there's something about that process that's so cool.
Right.
And once you've had that relationship and you carry something like that, it's almost like, in my case, I like it so much. I like that whole process so much about guns that I'm willing almost not to forgo a buck. I wouldn't say I'm willing to, but I know that sometimes I'm at a disadvantage, and I'm still willing to do it to hold that gun and feel like, oh, this is so cool.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
There's so much nostalgia with it.
Right. Yeah. Yeah. I'm gonna buckle down here and make the commitment and try and get one with it. So. I know my grandfather killed some gorgeous bucks, and I think when he passed away, he told me he had killed 65 Adirondack bucks, I believe it was.
Wow, that's
awesome.
Let me tell you something, and for the audience, those are the original open sights, and when you look at open sights from the 1930s through the 60s, whatever, they're terrible. They're just terrible. I mean, they're not designed well. You can't see the front sight, and once you get in that boreal forest, so it's a testament to the guys that shot their rifles, but were hunters.
Right.
They got close to those bucks. They knew what was happening. It was second nature to them to look at this little shiny bead that you could barely see. I mean, you could barely see it out in the daylight.
Right. Right.
It's crazy to me.
He told me a story about it one time. And, some guys might not agree with it, and it doesn't really matter because, everybody's their own hunter or whatever. But he told me a story once. He was so confident with this rifle that he had a buck come out to him, and he could see just the rear end of it sticking out behind a tree, and its legs were in line standing behind the tree. And he knew it was a buck, but he could not see shoulder, chest, nothing. I think he told me it was about a 60 or 70 yard shot, and he took that deer through both back legs and cut its back legs off and dropped it and was able to finish it off. I mean,
that's old.
That's
Take him through the hips, baby.
Yeah. Yep. He said he aimed for the hips and came down a little bit to where the legs had crossed in the major bone structure, and he knew it would hit bone, and he said it took both of the deer's back legs off, and to be able to kill it.
And to be clear, that's not unethical in a sense. I mean, obviously it's unethical relative to being in a farm field and having a perfect shot at,
Right.
a shoulder
Right.
shot, but he knew it would kill it,
Right.
right?
Well,
Right.
that's-
You're not taking pot shots.
Right.
He knew it would kill it one
Right.
way or another.
When you're at a level where you're killing 65 Adirondack bucks with an iron sighted 30-30.
Right.
There's no arguing that it's not it's not unethical or it's
Right.
Going to kill the deer, whether it
Yeah.
takes 5 minutes
Right.
to catch up and
Right.
put the finisher on.
That's
it's
right.
going to kill the deer.
that's right.
And really, with that shot, if you hit, you pretty much know it's going down. I mean,
Yeah, it's not going
it's
anywhere.
not going anywhere. So it's just that's also knowing how a deer operates and moves through the woods. And somebody that might not know that much about deer and much about the sport might think, well, that's shooting the wound. No, that's killing the deer. It's just in a
That's
different
right.
fashion.
That's right, because he's going to walk up and take care of it.
Right.
Yeah, if it doesn't bleed to death from having its femoral arteries cut.
Exactly.
Right. And we answer a lot of questions from folks who maybe suggest we're, taking pot shots. Shooting deer on the run is particularly a big thing. But again, we're not suggesting you take shots that are, inadvisable. But if you have a shot that's not a typical, like, boiler room shot, but you're confident that that's going to kill the deer, that's perfectly acceptable as
So-
far as I'm concerned.
Look you shoot at what you are confident you can hit.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean,
Which will put an ultimately fatal wound.
yeah, I mean, you see these guys shooting aspirins out of the airs with 22, and it's like, okay, you can probably hit just about anything.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
It's all about your ability.
Right.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I also think that I do want to say something about that. I'm going to give an example because I know we're going to get hit with a lot of things. Anytime we do with this, if I shoot at running game, but if I'm still hunting and that game is running, I know in my mind what I can and cannot do. So if there's snow, I'll take a greater chance because if there's snow and I wound it, by the end of an hour or two, that thing is dead.
Right.
Right.
And what I think is very hard for people that are outside of this region to understand is we have to take shots that are different than somebody in the West.
Right.
And to your point, if you're in a bean field and that's what you're used to, it really is a precision game because you can.
Right.
But
You've
look,
got all the time in the world.
but look at the design of that rifle. It's the most popular rifle in history as a centerfire rifle.
Right.
And when you look at the sights, they're abysmal.
Right.
And yet the guys killed hundreds of thousands, millions of deer with it throughout its history, throughout its tenure as a rifle. So it's you have to have an open mind. I guess that's the point. And we're making judgment calls, and we really care about the animals we shoot.
Right.
We do.
Open sights, open mind.
Right.
Right.
A little. Yeah. So this was great. Did we have anything else we want to talk about? I want to talk about this because my first Adirondack shed, you could see I posted it on Instagram. That was like 6 years ago. I was so excited. I still am about that shed. And you found this in basically the same area. And boy, it's just a shed bonanza. Isn't it?
Yeah, it
not, and you have to earn them. You walk 10 miles to find a shed, but this is this is a beast.
Yeah. And it's funny with those. It's almost as rewarding to find one of those as it is to kill a deer.
I
too.
sometimes say I
absolutely.
like shed hunting more than deer hunting.
It is
honestly.
so much
I
fun,
often
yeah.
say that. Yeah.
Yep. We always call that the consolation prize.
Yeah.
They're like little gold
Exactly,
nuggets.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah.
Yeah, little gold nuggets.
But it's always the what if too, to know that deer's out there and
Yeah.
Absolutely.
in that woods and
In that area, so that first shed I found the match. That was March 2020, and March 2022, I found unmistakably the right side, same buck. I
That's
mean, you
awesome.
hold it up, and it's just bigger, but it's the exact same shed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's just so cool, and that's why we do this. We love it because that giant buck, he might have died of old age.
Yeah.
Right.
He's just running around back there, and he's in the same spot at the same time. He loses his shed,
Yep.
and that's just the magic of big woods hunting,
Right.
It is. It is.
Anywhere south of here, he'd have been killed.
Yeah, probably by a car.
So Christian,
Car.
if
Exactly.
there was one thing that you could tell a youngster who's starting out, he's 14, he's in the big woods, and he's on his first hunts by himself, or 15, 16, whatever, what would you want to tell him? Because you're now in your 30s. You've killed some bucks.
Right. I think one thing I would tell youngsters and someone new into it, that took me a little bit of time to kind of figure it out. You don't always have to go as far as what you think.
So true.
sometimes I've killed a lot of deer within a mile of the pickup truck. And like when I first started, it was always, you got to be way in there. You got to be way in there. Well, sometimes way in there isn't as great as what you think it is. Right. There's a lot of good territory not far from roads. And don't overwhelm yourself with thinking that you need to be 4 miles in and try and figure out how to get that deer out. You know, my wife probably gets annoyed with me, but I pore over topo maps all year long. I study topo maps till they come out of my ears, it feels like. I just love to look at a map. I love to look at country and different access points and different, and just do that. You know, you have so many tools available now. Find something that looks like, hey, you know, maybe there's not really a parking area here, but there's a lot of hills, and Route 30, Joe Donito said it. Route 30 runs right through the heart of the Adirondacks with state land on both sides of it for a long ways. Go pick a spot, get a mile in. It doesn't take a long distance, per se. And those deer, you know, they live there, and guys kill them within a mile of the truck every year. I see drag marks to the trucks every year.
Yeah.
And it's awesome, you know, that's what. So I guess that would be my advice is don't overthink it. You know, don't feel like you have to get crazy far in there.
I think that's great advice. I think that there are places, I'm sorry, I have to comment. I didn't know that you were going to answer that way. So there are places where obviously there are no deer. We call that a desert, right? And for whatever reason, it just is that the way it is. It's a vacuum of deer activity. And those are kind of the depressing days where you walk and walk and walk and walk and walk. And it's like, this sucks.
Right.
You know, are there deer anywhere? But if you have what we call a quad, which is 3 or 4 small peaks around a swamp, there's big bucks there.
Yep.
I don't care how much it's hunted. There's big bucks there.
Right.
So just walk around and take your time. To your point, I think that's great advice. Don't overthink it. I overthought it for a long time, and I caused myself a lot of misery.
Yeah, I found myself doing the same thing, and when I kind of hit a spot where it was dead for a little bit, and you almost kind of fell out of love with it because you were struggling and trying to cover so much ground, and you know, and it's just, don't overthink it. It's woods. Just go find, like you said, find a couple of mountains that come together, create a saddle up high that might have a swamp near it or whatever you need, and there'll be bucks there. So,
That's right.
Yep.
I killed my first and only Adirondack buck about 300 yards off the road, my 7th day hunting. I wasn't overthinking it. I was going in the woods. I saw sign. It's that simple sometimes.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
Yes.
Now I'm running all over hell.
Now you're running 3 miles in.
Exactly. Yeah. Well, this has been awesome, Christian. You're a great guy. How old are you, by the way?
34. Yep.
34, and you have a wealth of experience, and I find that's the case a lot with folks who grew up in the park. I mean, it's just it's in your DNA, it's in your blood, and it shows. And the results speak for themselves, and it's impressive, man. And I've learned a lot in this podcast. I hope the audience has. So yeah, thanks for coming on, man.
Yeah, it's been an honor. I've listened to you guys for a long time, and it seems a little surreal to actually sit down and do it with you guys. So thank you very much.
Well, we feel honored too.
Yeah,
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.
Yeah.
All right, then. Well, on that note, we will see all you legends later. Take care.
Take care, everybody.
Thanks for tuning in to the Adirondack Hunt Podcast. You can find more episodes at bigwoodsbucks.com. Check out bigwoodsbucks.com for the latest gear, including our famous American-made wool hunting jackets, wool hunting fanny packs, and wool hunting pants, along with books, tracking guides, and logo wear. See you next time.